Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. The espresso coffee flew through the air in slow motion, tracing a perfect arc before landing directly on the pristine white shirt of the most arrogant man Sophia had ever seen in her life. "You have got to be kidding me," she yelled, her hands still trembling with adrenaline after almost being run over by that idiot at the Fifth Avenue intersection. The guy had come out of nowhere with his black Porsche, braking just inches away from her, and still had the audacity to honk as if she were the one at fault. The man got out of the car because, of course, he had to be ridiculously tall and irritatingly perfect-looking, and stared at the brown stain spreading across his shirt as if he were watching a crime against humanity. "My shirt costs more than your monthly salary, princess," he said with a sarcastic smile. That made Sophia want to throw the rest of her coffee in his face. "Princess?" Sophia marched toward him, completely ignoring the pedestrians who stopped to watch the show. "Listen here, you spoiled rich boy. You almost killed me back there. And you still have the nerve to call me princess? I saved you from yourself. Who crosses the street looking at their phone?" He gestured dramatically. Darwin was right about natural selection. The crowd around them started murmuring and taking photos. Sophia could hear someone whispering, "Look at this fight." But she was seeing too much red to care. "You were the one driving like a maniac. I bet Daddy bought you that little car to compensate for other deficiencies." She shot back, crossing her arms. The man laughed as if she had told the funniest joke in the world. "Wow, how original. Let me guess. You're one of those angry feminists who blames men for all the world's problems." "I am an angry feminist." "Yes, and you're exactly the type of privileged cretin who proves me right." Sophia felt her face heat up. "I bet you've never worked a day in your life. And you look like the type of girl who works at an organic cafe and writes poetry about your feelings," he replied, cleaning his shirt with a handkerchief that probably cost more than her rent. "At least I work. And for your information, I'm an advertiser at Morgan & Associates." "How impressive," he said with the most venomous sarcasm Sophia had ever heard. "Let me guess. You make shampoo ads and think you're the next Peggy Olson." That was the last straw. Sophia stepped forward, her index finger pointing at his chest. "You know what? People like you are everything wrong with this country. Spoiled rich kids who think they can buy anything, including the right to treat people like garbage. And people like you are exactly why I prefer to stay home," he retorted, always ready to make drama out of any nonsense. "Drama?" Sophia practically screamed. "You almost killed me. Exaggeration is your specialty, isn't it?" The tension between them was palpable. Other pedestrians started forming a circle, some recording with their phones. Sophia could feel dozens of eyes on them, but at that moment, only she and that arrogant jerk existed. "You know what?" she said, lowering her voice to a dangerously calm tone. "I really hope I never have to see your face again in my life." "The feeling is mutual, princess," he replied, getting back into the car. "Next time, watch where you're going." Sophia stood on the sidewalk, watching the Porsche disappear into Manhattan traffic, still trembling with rage. The people around started dispersing, murmuring among themselves about the show they had just witnessed. "Jerk," she muttered, grabbing her phone to check if it hadn't broken in the confusion. That's when she saw it. 7 missed calls from her mother. "Oh my goodness," she sighed, dialing back. "Sophia, finally!" Linda Carter's shrill voice exploded through the phone. "Where were you?" "I have incredible news." "Mom, doesn't matter. Sit down because I have something to tell you that will completely change your life." Sophia closed her eyes, sensing that the day was about to get even worse. "What now, Mom?" "Well, you know how Elizabeth Harrington and I have been friends since college, right? And how she always said you'd be perfect for her son." Sophia's stomach dropped. "Mom, please tell me you didn't. I arranged your marriage." Linda screamed so loud that Sophia had to move the phone away from her ear. "With Elizabeth's son, Ethan. You're going to meet him at dinner on Friday at their house." Sophia was silent for a moment, processing the bomb that had just exploded in her life. "You did what? An arranged marriage? Like in old movies? How romantic." "Mom," Sophia yelled, making some pedestrians turn to look. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Sophia Rose Carter, "You're 28 years old and still haven't brought home any decent man. I was getting desperate. I don't need a man. Everyone needs love, dear. And Ethan is perfect. He's a businessman, handsome, rich. I don't care if he's Prince William reincarnated. I'm not marrying a stranger. You're already engaged, dear. Elizabeth and I signed all the papers this morning. Sophia felt the world spinning around her. You signed papers? It's a very civilized agreement. You'll meet, fall in love, and have the wedding of your dreams. What's the harm? Sophia looked up at Manhattan's blue sky, wondering if it was possible to die from stress at 28. Mom, I'm going home, and when I get there, we're going to have a very serious conversation about boundaries and how you just ruined my life. Oh, don't be dramatic. It'll be wonderful. Dinner is at 7. I'm not going. Yes, you are, because if you don't go, I'll cut your trust fund allowance. Sophia was speechless. You wouldn't do that. Try challenging me, dear. The call ended, leaving Sophia standing in the middle of New York's busiest sidewalk, holding a phone and contemplating how her life had transformed into a second-rate romantic comedy in less than 15 minutes. Perfect, she muttered. Absolutely perfect. As she walked back home, Sophia had no idea that the arrogant man with the Porsche was at that exact moment receiving a very similar call from his own mother, and that Friday's dinner would be much more interesting than either of them could imagine. Ethan was having the kind of day that made him question every life choice he'd ever made. First, some crazy woman had thrown coffee all over his favorite Armani shirt. Then his biggest client had threatened to pull out of a multi-million-dollar deal. And now, as he sat in his corner office overlooking Central Park, his phone was ringing with the one sound that could make his day infinitely worse. His mother's ringtone. "What now, Mother?" he answered, not bothering to hide his irritation. "Ethan Alexander Harrington. Is that any way to greet your loving mother?" "It is when my loving mother only calls when she wants something." Ethan loosened his tie and leaned back in his leather chair. "Let me guess. You need me to attend another charity gala where you can parade me around like a prize stallion. Actually, darling, I have wonderful news. I've solved all your problems." Ethan's blood ran cold. The last time Elizabeth Harrington had solved his problems, he'd ended up as the unwilling spokesperson for her friend's organic dog food company. "What did you do?" "I found you a wife." The silence that followed was so profound that Elizabeth wondered if the call had dropped. "Ethan, sweetie, are you there?" "I'm sorry," Ethan said slowly, his voice dangerously calm. "Did you just say you found me a wife?" "Yes. Isn't it exciting? Her name is Sophia Carter, and she's absolutely perfect for you. Smart, beautiful, successful." "Mother." Ethan shot up from his chair so fast that his coffee mug went flying, adding another stain to his already ruined day. "Please tell me you did not just arrange my marriage like we're living in the 1800s. Don't be so dramatic, darling. It's a very modern arrangement. You'll meet her on Friday for dinner, and then you can plan a lovely spring wedding." Ethan started pacing behind his desk like a caged tiger. "I can't believe this. I absolutely cannot believe this. You actually found some poor woman willing to marry a complete stranger." "She doesn't know she's willing yet," Elizabeth said cheerfully, "but Linda assures me that Sophia will come around. Apparently, she's been having trouble in the romance department." "Trouble in the mother. What have you done? I've given you both the gift of love. You're both successful, attractive people who are clearly too busy to find each other naturally. This way, you skip all that tedious dating nonsense and go straight to happily ever after." Ethan dropped into his chair and put his head in his hands. "This isn't real. This cannot be real." "Oh, it's very real, sweetheart. I've already signed the preliminary agreements with Linda. You're meeting Friday at 7 at our house." "I'm not going." "Yes, you are." "Mother, I am 30 years old. You cannot force me to go on a play date." "Actually, I can. Unless you want me to tell everyone at the country club about that time in college when you—" "Fine." Ethan interrupted quickly. "Fine. I'll go to your ridiculous dinner, but I'm going to make it very clear to this Sophia person that I have absolutely no intention of marrying her or anyone else." "That's the spirit, darling. Oh, and Ethan, wear something nice. First impressions matter." The line went dead, leaving Ethan staring at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. "Sir?" His assistant, Marcus, appeared in the doorway. "Is everything all right?" I heard shouting. Ethan looked up at the young man who had been brave enough to work for him for 2 whole years. "Marcus, do you believe in arranged marriages?" Marcus's eyes widened. Sir, never mind." Ethan waved his hand dismissively. "Just clear my schedule for Friday evening. Apparently, I have a dinner that will either end in matrimony or murder. Should I call security, sir?" "No, Marcus, but you might want to update my will." As Marcus retreated, probably to update his resume, Ethan turned to stare out his window at the city below. Somewhere out there was a woman named Sophia Carter, who was about to have her life turned upside down just as much as his. He almost felt sorry for her. Almost. 3 days later, Friday evening, the Harrington mansion in the Upper East Side looked like something out of a magazine spread, which wasn't surprising since it had actually been featured in Architectural Digest twice. Ethan stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the 5th time and wondering if it was too late to fake his own death. "You look handsome, darling." Elizabeth burst into his room without knocking, as was her habit. "Sophia is going to be so impressed. Mother, for the last time, I am not marrying this woman. I'm going to politely explain that this whole arrangement is insane. We'll have an awkward dinner, and then we'll never see each other again." "We'll see about that," Elizabeth said with a knowing smile that made Ethan's stomach churn. The doorbell rang, and Ethan felt his palms start to sweat. This was ridiculous. He was Ethan Harrington. He'd closed billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. He could handle one dinner with one woman. "They're here." Elizabeth clapped her hands together. "Come on, let's go meet your future wife." Ethan followed his mother downstairs, mentally preparing his thanks but no thanks speech. He could hear voices in the foyer. His mother's friend Linda chattering excitedly about wedding venues, and another voice, a voice that sounded strangely familiar, a voice that sounded angry, very angry. "I still can't believe you did this, Mom," the mystery woman was saying. "This is completely insane. I don't care how nice his family is. I'm not marrying some spoiled rich boy who probably thinks women exist solely for his entertainment." Ethan froze at the top of the stairs. "Now, Sophia, don't prejudge," Linda was saying. "Ethan might be wonderful. You won't know until you meet him. Trust me, Mom. Rich guys are all the same, arrogant, entitled, and convinced that money can buy them anything they want. I bet he's probably one of those guys who drives a fancy car to compensate for his personality defects." Ethan gripped the banister, a terrible suspicion forming in his mind. "Speaking of which," Sophia continued, "I had the worst encounter with exactly that type of guy just 3 days ago. Some jerk in a Porsche almost ran me over, and then had the nerve to act like it was my fault. Can you believe that? He actually called me princess, like some kind of patronizing. Ethan's blood turned to ice. "Oh." Elizabeth suddenly appeared at the bottom of the stairs, beaming up at him. "Ethan, darling, come meet Sophia." Ethan descended the stairs slowly, each step feeling like walking toward his own execution. As he reached the bottom and turned toward the living room, he found himself face to face with the coffee-throwing, car-hating feminist fury from Fifth Avenue. Sophia stood frozen in the doorway, her mouth hanging open in horror. For a moment, nobody spoke. Linda looked confused. Elizabeth looked delighted. And Ethan and Sophia looked like they were both seriously considering jumping out the nearest window. "Well," Elizabeth said brightly, oblivious to the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, "isn't this perfect? You two look like you've seen each other before." Sophia found her voice first. "You," she said, pointing an accusatory finger at Ethan. "You are Ethan Harrington." "Unfortunately," Ethan replied dryly. "And you're Sophia Carter, the woman my mother wants me to marry." "Oh my," Linda started, finally picking up on the hostile energy crackling between them. "Mom," Sophia said slowly, never taking her eyes off Ethan. "Remember that story I told you about the jerk with the Porsche?" "Yes, dear." The one who almost Linda's face went pale. "Oh, no. Oh, yes," Sophia and Ethan said in unison. Elizabeth clapped her hands together, completely misreading the situation. "How wonderful. You've already met. This is fate, darling." Ethan and Sophia stared at each other, both thinking the exact same thing. This was going to be the longest dinner of their lives. "Well," Ethan said finally, straightening his shoulders, "this should be interesting." Sophia smiled sweetly, the kind of smile that promised violence. "Oh, it's going to be fascinating." Elizabeth beamed. "I just love young romance." If only she knew. The Harrington dining room looked like a scene from a medieval peace treaty negotiation. If medieval peace treaties had been conducted over herb-crusted salmon and passive-aggressive small talk, Sophia sat across from Ethan at the mahogany table that could easily seat 12. Both of them were smiling so hard, their faces hurt, while their mothers fluttered around them like excited wedding planners. "So, Sophia," Elizabeth said, serving what looked like enough food to feed a small army. "Ethan tells me you work in advertising. How exciting." "It is," Sophia replied sweetly, cutting her salmon with perhaps more force than necessary. "I love creating campaigns that challenge people's preconceptions. You know, showing them that first impressions can be completely wrong." Ethan nearly choked on his wine. "How fascinating. I imagine you meet a lot of interesting characters in your line of work." Oh, absolutely. Just last week, I had to deal with this incredibly difficult client who thought money could buy him anything. He was so used to getting his way that he couldn't handle being told no. Sophia's smile could have powered a small city. Some people are just so entitled, don't you think? I completely agree, Ethan said, matching her saccharine tone. Though I find that sometimes people who complain the loudest about entitlement are the ones who expect the world to bend over backward for them. Linda, who had been following the conversation like a tennis match, jumped in nervously. Sophia, dear, why don't you tell Ethan about your yoga classes? You're so dedicated to your health. I practice hot yoga, Sophia said, her eyes never leaving Ethan's face. It's all about maintaining control in impossibly difficult situations. The key is learning to breathe through the most unbearable circumstances. How admirable, Ethan replied. I prefer boxing myself. There's something very satisfying about hitting things when you're frustrated. Elizabeth, completely oblivious to the undercurrent of hostility, clapped her hands together. Oh, you two have so much in common: athletic, successful, passionate about your interests. Sophia took a large gulp of wine. Passionate is certainly one word for it. Speaking of passion, Linda said, pulling out her phone, I've been looking at wedding venues. The plaza has an opening in June. In June? Sophia and Ethan said simultaneously. Too soon? Elizabeth asked, genuinely confused. I suppose we could push it to July, but summer weddings are so lovely. Sophia felt her eyes starting to twitch. Mom, don't you think we should get to know each other first? I mean, we literally just met. Nonsense, darling. Your father and I knew we were meant to be together within 5 minutes of meeting. Sometimes love is just instant. Ethan coughed delicately. Well, something was certainly instant. Sophia shot him a look that could have melted steel. Yes, some feelings are just immediate. The important thing, Elizabeth continued, completely missing the subtext, is that you're both here, you're both single, and you're both ready to start the next chapter of your lives. Actually, Sophia said carefully, I'm not really looking to start any new chapters right now. I'm very happy with my current book. But darling, Linda protested, you can't stay single forever. What about children? What about growing old together? What about letting people make their own choices? Sophia interrupted, her composure finally cracking slightly. Ethan leaned forward. I have to agree with Sophia on this one. Marriage is a pretty big decision to make for other people. For a moment, Sophia looked genuinely surprised that he was taking her side. Oh, pish-posh. Elizabeth waved her hand dismissively. You young people overthink everything. In my day, parents knew what was best for their children. In your day, Ethan said dryly, people also thought smoking was healthy, and that women shouldn't vote. Sophia blinked. Had the arrogant jerk from the Porsche just made a feminist point? Well, Linda said, her voice getting slightly shrill, I just think it's wonderful that you two are getting along so well. Look how you're already finishing each other's sentences. Sophia and Ethan looked at each other, both realizing they had been unconsciously united against their mothers. We're not. Sophia started. This isn't, Ethan began. See. Elizabeth beamed. Perfect synchronization. The next hour passed in a blur of increasingly ridiculous wedding planning discussions. The mothers debated everything from flower arrangements to honeymoon destinations, while Sophia and Ethan sat in stunned silence, occasionally exchanging looks of mutual horror. I'm thinking a spring theme, Linda was saying. Lots of pastels. Maybe some baby's breath. Oh, but a winter wedding would be so elegant, Elizabeth countered. All whites and silvers. Very sophisticated. What about a destination wedding? Linda suggested. Somewhere romantic, like Paris or Italy. Sophia watched this tennis match of wedding planning with growing panic. Mom, seriously, we need to slow down. Or we could do something traditional right here in the city, Elizabeth interrupted. St. Patrick's Cathedral is gorgeous. I'm not Catholic, Sophia said quickly. Neither am I, Ethan added. Details. Elizabeth waved her hand. We'll figure it out. As the conversation spiraled further into wedding madness, Sophia found herself studying Ethan's face. When he wasn't being an arrogant jerk, he was actually, well, he was still annoyingly handsome. But there was something else. The way he defended her right to choose. The way he looked just as trapped as she felt. Maybe he wasn't completely terrible, just mostly terrible. So, Linda said suddenly, have you two thought about how many children you want? Sophia choked on her wine. Ethan went completely pale. Children? Sophia squeaked. Well, of course, the whole point of marriage is to create a family. I'm thinking 3 or 4 would be perfect. Ethan, You come from a big family, don't you? I'm an only child, Ethan said faintly. Perfect. Then you'll want to make sure Sophia has lots of babies to make up for it. Sophia stood up so abruptly, her chair nearly tipped over. I need some air. She practically ran to the terrace, leaving Ethan alone with both mothers, who were now discussing baby names. A few minutes later, Ethan appeared beside her on the terrace, looking like he'd just survived a natural disaster. They're debating whether our firstborn should be named after your grandfather or mine, he said, leaning against the railing. Sophia laughed, but it came out slightly hysterical. This is insane. This is completely, utterly insane. Completely, Ethan agreed. Though I have to say, your mother's idea about the honeymoon in Tuscany wasn't terrible. Sophia looked at him sharply. Don't even joke about that. I'm not joking. I'm just saying if we're going to be stuck in this nightmare, at least the destinations they're picking are nice. We're not stuck in anything, Sophia said firmly. We're going to go back in there. Politely but firmly explain that this arrangement isn't going to work, and then we're going to leave. Ethan nodded. Agreed. We'll present a united front. Exactly. We'll be mature, rational adults who can handle this situation with dignity. Absolutely. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, both gathering their courage. Sophia, Ethan said, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about the whole Portia thing. I was having a bad day, but that's no excuse for being a jerk. Sophia looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. And I'm sorry for throwing coffee on you. That was an overreaction. We're even then. We're even. Ethan extended his hand. Partners in crime? Sophia shook it. Partners in crime. They walked back into the dining room together, both determined to end this madness once and for all. What they found was their mothers holding up fabric samples and debating the merits of ivory versus champagne wedding dresses. Oh, good. You're back, Elizabeth exclaimed. We've narrowed it down to 3 possible wedding themes. Sophia and Ethan looked at each other, their brief moment of unity solidifying into something stronger. Actually, Sophia said, Ethan and I have something to tell you. We've been talking, Ethan added, and we've decided that we need more time. Sophia finished, surprising even herself. Ethan stared at her. We do? Yes, Sophia said, her mind racing. We need time to get to know each other properly before we make any big decisions. How much time? Linda asked suspiciously. Sophia looked at Ethan, hoping he would understand what she was trying to do. A month. A month? Ethan agreed, slowly. To see if we're compatible, Elizabeth clapped her hands together. Oh, how romantic. A proper courtship. But no wedding planning until the month is up. Sophia said firmly, we need to focus on getting to know each other, and if after a month we decide we're not right for each other, Ethan added. Everyone agrees to drop this whole arrangement. The mothers looked at each other, clearly not thrilled with this development. Fine, Linda said finally. 1 month. But you have to really try. We'll try, Sophia promised. As they said their goodbyes and prepared to leave, Ethan caught Sophia's arm gently. That was brilliant, he said quietly. But you do realize what you just signed us up for, right? Sophia nodded. A month of fake dating to buy us time to figure out how to get out of this mess. Can you handle spending a month with me? Sophia looked at him, really looked at him, and realized that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the complete disaster she'd thought he was. I think I can manage, she said. Can you handle spending a month with an angry feminist? Ethan grinned. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, it seemed genuine. Princess, I think this might actually be fun. And despite everything, Sophia found herself smiling back. Sophia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of Café Luna, wondering what alternate universe she'd stumbled into, where she was getting ready for a fake date with the man she'd thrown coffee on just a week ago. She'd changed her outfit 3 times before leaving her apartment, which was ridiculous because this wasn't a real date. It was a strategic meeting, a business arrangement, a mutual survival pact. So why had she spent 20 minutes perfecting her eyeliner? Get it together, Sophia, she muttered to herself. Applying 1 more coat of lip gloss. It's just Ethan, arrogant, entitled, surprisingly, not completely horrible Ethan. Her phone buzzed with a text. Ethan, running 5 minutes late. Client emergency. Sorry, Sophia, no problem. I'll be the one plotting world domination at the corner table. Ethan, should I be concerned? Sophia, only if you're part of the patriarchy. Ethan, I'll bring armor. Despite herself, Sophia smiled. When had Ethan developed a sense of humor? She tucked her phone away and headed back to their table, where she'd strategically positioned herself with a clear view of the entrance. The cafe was one of those trendy spots in Soho that served coffee in mason jars and had more succulence than a desert. But it was neutral territory, public enough that their mothers couldn't ambush them, casual enough that it didn't feel like a real date. Sophia pulled out her tablet and opened the document she'd created the night before. Project: Escape the Arranged Marriage. Phase 1. She'd color-coded everything because organization was her coping mechanism. Week 1. Establish ground rules and public presence. Week 2. Create believable couple interactions. Week 3. Document incompatibility. Week 4. Mutual breakup announcement. It was foolproof, logical, completely rational. Planning my demise? Sophia looked up to find Ethan sliding into the seat across from her, looking infuriatingly good in a navy sweater that probably cost more than her monthly salary. His hair was slightly messed up, like he'd been running his hands through it, and there was a coffee stain on his sleeve that made him seem almost human. Actually, yes, Sophia said, turning her tablet so he could see the screen. Welcome to Operation Fake Romance. Ethan's eyebrows shot up as he read her meticulously organized plan. You made a spreadsheet for our fake relationship. Color-coded, Sophia said proudly. Green for activities that make us look compatible, yellow for neutral interactions, and red for documented deal-breakers. You terrify me, Ethan said, but he was smiling, and I mean that in the most admiring way possible. Good. Fear breeds respect. Sophia pulled out a second tablet. I also made you a copy with editing privileges. Ethan stared at the device like she'd just handed him a live grenade. You made me a shared document for our fake relationship, complete with a communication protocol, emergency contact procedures, and a social media strategy. Social media strategy? Sophia pulled up Instagram on her phone. My mother follows me on everything. If we're going to sell this, we need photographic evidence. Nothing too intimate, just enough to suggest we're spending time together. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Has anyone ever told you that you're completely insane? Frequently. Has anyone ever told you that you're surprisingly tolerable when you're not trying to run people over? Just you, actually. Ethan signaled the waitress for coffee. So, what's our story? How did we fall for each other after our charming meet-cute involving assault with a caffeinated beverage? Sophia had been dreading this question. I was thinking we could say that our initial conflict was just a passionate disagreement, that we realized we're both strong-willed people who respect that quality in others. So, we're going with the enemies to lovers trope. It's a classic for a reason. Sophia opened her notes app. The key is to make it believable. We need shared interests, compatible values, and enough chemistry to convince two women who've been planning our wedding since we were in diapers. Chemistry, Ethan repeated slowly. That could be a problem. Why? We clearly have antagonistic chemistry. We just need to redirect it. Antagonistic chemistry, Ethan mused. Is that what we're calling it? Something in his tone made Sophia look up sharply. But before she could analyze his expression, the waitress appeared with Ethan's coffee and a plate of pastries that neither of them had ordered. On the house, the young woman said with a bright smile directed entirely at Ethan. For the beautiful couple. Sophia blinked. We're not, thank you, Ethan said smoothly, his hand suddenly covering Sophia's on the table. That's very sweet. The waitress practically glowed under his attention before bouncing away. Sophia stared down at Ethan's hand covering hers, acutely aware of how warm his skin was and how her heart rate had just spiked for absolutely no logical reason. Rule number 1, Ethan said quietly, not moving his hand. When someone assumes we're a couple, we don't correct them. It's good practice. Right, Sophia said, her voice coming out slightly breathless. Practice. They sat like that for a moment, Ethan's thumb absently stroking across her knuckles while he read through her fake dating strategy. Sophia tried to focus on her coffee, but all she could think about was how different his hands looked compared to the rest of him. They weren't soft and manicured like she'd expected. There were small scars across his knuckles, and his fingernails were short and practical. You mentioned boxing, she said suddenly. What? Ethan looked up from the tablet. At dinner, you said you like boxing. Is that where these came from? She gestured to the scars on his hands. Ethan glanced down, seeming surprised by the question. Some of them. I've been boxing since college. It's therapeutic. Therapeutic? Anger management? He smiled with a self-deprecating smile. Turns out hitting things is better than hitting people. You have anger management issues? I have control issues, Ethan corrected. The anger is just a symptom. When things don't go according to plan, I tend to react poorly. Sophia studied his face, noting the slight tension around his eyes. Is that what happened with the Porsche thing? Bad day at the office? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his thumb still moving across her knuckles in a way that was becoming seriously distracting. I just found out that my biggest client was pulling out of a deal I'd been working on for 6 months. Something about wanting to go in a different direction. Translation: they found someone cheaper. That sucks. It more than sucks. It was a $50 million contract. Ethan's jaw tightened. So when some woman stepped into traffic without looking and then had the audacity to blame me for her mistake, you took out your frustration on the nearest target. Sophia finished. I get it. Do you? I threw coffee on you, didn't I? I was having a terrible morning too. My biggest client had just rejected 3 months of work because, apparently, my campaign was too feminist for their brand. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. Too feminist? Apparently, suggesting that women can make their own purchasing decisions is radical propaganda. Sophia rolled her eyes. They wanted something more traditional and family-oriented. Translation: sexist and outdated. Exactly. Sophia looked at him with surprise. Most men don't get that. Most men are idiots, Ethan said matter-of-factly. What was the campaign for? Athletic wear. I pitched this whole concept about women athletes being strong and independent, training for their own goals rather than to look good for other people. Apparently, that was too threatening. Ethan leaned forward, genuinely interested. Do you still have the pitch? Why? My company might be interested. We do a lot of work with athletic brands, and that kind of campaign could be exactly what some of our more progressive clients are looking for. Sophia stared at him. Are you serious? Dead serious. Send me the proposal. Sophia felt her carefully constructed walls wobble slightly. That's really nice of you. It's not nice. It's smart business. Though I have to ask, if you're such a fierce feminist, how did you end up agreeing to an arranged marriage? Sophia groaned and dropped her head into her free hand. Temporary insanity, mother-induced trauma, I honestly don't know. 1 minute I was living my independent single life, and the next minute I was being told I was engaged to a stranger. Same here, though in my case, it was more like being told I was engaged to the woman who attacked me with coffee. I didn't attack you. I defended myself against vehicular assault with a caffeinated beverage. It was effective. Ethan laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. It really was. I'm still finding coffee stains on things. Good. Maybe it'll remind you to drive more carefully. Actually, Ethan said, his expression growing serious, I've been thinking about that day a lot. And you were right. I was driving aggressively because I was angry, and that was dangerous. I could have really hurt you. Sophia felt something shift in her chest. Are you apologizing? I'm not very good at it. You're doing fine. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing this unexpected turn toward actual honesty. So, Sophia said finally, do you think we can actually pull this off, convincing our mothers that we're falling for each other? Ethan's eyes met hers, and something flickered there that made her breath catch. I think we might be more convincing than we intended. Before Sophia could ask what he meant by that, her phone rang with her mother's distinctive ringtone. Speaking of the devil, Sophia muttered, accepting the call. Hi, Mom. Sophia. Darling. How's your date going? Sophia looked at Ethan, who was clearly listening to every word. It's going well. Oh, I'm so excited. What are you doing? Where did he take you? Is he being romantic? We're just having coffee and talking. Talking is good. Communication is the foundation of any strong relationship. What are you talking about? Sophia looked helplessly at Ethan, who grinned and leaned closer to the phone. We're discussing Sophia's brilliant marketing ideas, he said loudly enough for Linda to hear. She's incredibly talented. Sophia's eyes widened as her mother practically shrieked with delight. Oh, he thinks you're talented. That's wonderful. Ethan, dear, is that you? It is, Mrs. Carter. Sophia was just showing me some of her work. She's very impressive. She is, isn't she? My Sophia has always been so smart and creative. Are you enjoying yourselves? Ethan's eyes never left Sophia's face as he answered. Very much. Sophia is surprising in a good way. I hope definitely in a good way. Sophia felt her cheeks heating up. This was supposed to be fake. Why did Ethan sound so sincere? Well, I don't want to interrupt your lovely date, Linda continued, but I wanted to let you know that Elizabeth and I are planning a little get-together for next weekend. Just a casual barbecue so you two can spend time together in a relaxed setting. Sophia and Ethan looked at each other in panic. Mom, that's really not necessary. Nonsense. It'll be fun. Very low-key. Just family and a few close friends. How many close friends? Ethan asked suspiciously. Oh, just 20 or 30 people. Nothing big. Sophia put her head in her hands. Mom, it's all settled. Saturday at 2. Don't worry about bringing anything except yourselves and your love for each other. The line went dead, leaving Sophia and Ethan staring at each other in horror. 30 people, Sophia said faintly. A barbecue, Ethan added, with family and friends? They sat in stunned silence for a moment. We're going to have to hold hands, Sophia said finally. Probably more than that, Ethan agreed. Public displays of affection will definitely be expected. I don't do public displays of affection. Neither do I. This is a disaster. Complete disaster. Another pause. We need to practice, Sophia said suddenly. Practice couple behavior. If we're going to convince 30 people that we're falling in love, we need to look comfortable with each other. Ethan considered this. You want to practice being a couple? It's method acting. We're playing characters who are attracted to each other, right? And we need to be convincing, very convincing. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her with that unreadable expression again. Okay, but if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. No half measures. What do you mean? Ethan stood up and held out his hand. Come on, if we're going to practice being a couple, we might as well start now. Sophia looked at his outstretched hand. Where are we going? On a real fake date. The kind of date that two people who are falling for each other would actually go on. But we already had coffee. Coffee was a business meeting. This, Ethan wiggled his fingers, is a date. Sophia hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand and letting him pull her to her feet. His fingers laced through hers with surprising naturalness, and she tried to ignore the way her pulse jumped at the contact. Where are we going? She asked as he led her toward the door. It's a surprise. I don't like surprises. I know, Ethan said, holding the door open for her. But the Sophia I'm falling for is learning to be more spontaneous, and the Ethan I'm falling for is learning to be less controlling. Exactly. As they walked down the busy Soho street hand in hand, Sophia caught their reflection in a shop window. They looked good together, natural, like a real couple who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, which was ridiculous because this was all fake, completely fake, even if Ethan's hand in hers felt perfectly real. Sophia, yeah? For what it's worth, I think this might actually work. Sophia looked up at him, noting the way the afternoon sun caught the gold flecks in his brown eyes. The fake dating thing? Among other things, Ethan said softly. And something in his voice made Sophia's heart skip a beat. She was in so much trouble. Sophia stood in front of her walk-in closet at 7 a.m. On Saturday morning, surrounded by what looked like the aftermath of a fashion tornado. She tried on 14 different outfits, rejected them all, and was now seriously considering showing up to the barbecue in her pajamas just to spite her mother. Her phone buzzed with another text from Ethan. Ethan. Emergency strategy session at 10. I've been awake since 5 thinking about this barbecue. Sophia. Only since 5? Amateur. I haven't slept. Come over. I need a male perspective on my outfit crisis. Ethan. Did you just invite me to help you pick out clothes? Sophia. Don't make it weird. It's intel gathering. I need to know what outfit says. I'm falling for your son, but I'm still an independent woman. Ethan. That's surprisingly specific. What's your address? 30 minutes later, Sophia opened her apartment door to find Ethan standing in her hallway holding 2 large coffee cups and a bag from her favorite bakery. Peace offering, he said, handing her a cup. I figured if we're going to survive today, we need all the caffeine we can get. You remembered my coffee order, Sophia said, surprised by the gesture. Oat milk latte with an extra shot and a dash of cinnamon. I pay attention. Ethan stepped into her apartment and stopped short. Wow. This place is a disaster. I was going to say completely different from what I expected. Ethan turned in a slow circle, taking in the exposed brick walls covered with her photography, the vintage furniture mixed with modern art, and the organized chaos that somehow managed to look both professional and cozy. It's very you. Thanks, I think. Sophia led him toward her bedroom, then stopped abruptly. Okay, this is weird. I'm about to show my fake boyfriend my closet. How is this my life? Hey, Ethan said gently. For what it's worth, This whole situation is bizarre for both of us. But we're in it together, right? Partners in crime. Sophia looked at him, noting the way he'd dressed for their strategy session. Jeans that looked like they'd been tailored specifically for him, a gray t-shirt that showed off arms that were definitely the product of his boxing hobby, and sneakers that probably cost more than her rent. He looked casual and effortless and annoyingly perfect. Partners in crime, she agreed. Okay, prepare yourself for the fashion show from the underworld. Sophia's bedroom was as eclectic as the rest of her apartment, but Ethan found himself focusing on the details that revealed more about her personality. Books stacked on every surface, ranging from marketing theory to romance novels she was clearly trying to hide. A guitar in the corner that looked well used. Photos of her with friends, laughing and adventurous and completely different from the tense woman he'd met a week ago. "I didn't know you played guitar," he said, picking up the instrument. "I don't really. I mean, I can play 3 songs badly." Sophia emerged from her closet, holding 2 hangers. "My dad taught me before he died. I keep thinking I'll take lessons, but you're too busy conquering the advertising world." "Something like that." Sophia held up the outfits. "Okay, option 1, sundress and cardigan, says sweet girlfriend, who your mother will love. Option 2, jeans and a nice top, says cool girl who doesn't try too hard." Ethan studied both options seriously, then shook his head. "Neither." "Neither? They're both costumes. You're trying to be someone you think people want to see instead of just being yourself." Sophia blinked. "I'm sorry. Are you giving me fashion advice? Because that's not what we agreed to. I'm giving you Sophia advice." Ethan set down the guitar and moved closer. "The woman I've been getting to know this week is confident, intelligent, passionate about her work, and not afraid to speak her mind. That's the woman I'm supposedly falling for. That's who you should be today. And what exactly does that woman wear to meet 30 strangers who are all going to be analyzing our relationship?" Ethan reached past her into the closet and pulled out a black wrap dress that Sophia had forgotten she owned. "This, with those boots you wore on our fake date and that leather jacket I saw you eyeing in the coffee shop window." Sophia stared at the outfit, then at Ethan. "How did you—" "I pay attention," he said again. "Plus, that dress will drive me crazy all day, which will make it very easy to look like I'm infatuated with you." The comment hung in the air between them, loaded with something that felt decidedly less fake than it should have. "Ethan, too much?" he asked, but his eyes were serious. "No, it's perfect for the performance. I mean, right, the performance." 2 hours later, they stood on the front steps of the Harrington estate, both looking like they were about to face a firing squad. "Okay," Sophia said, smoothing down her dress. "Let's review the game plan one more time. Physical contact should look natural but not overly sexual," Ethan recited. "We've been dating for a week, so hand-holding and casual touches are appropriate. We have 3 shared interests: hiking, obscure documentaries, and that new Thai restaurant downtown. Our first official date was last Tuesday to the art museum, followed by dinner at Maria's. We're taking things slow because we want to build a solid foundation, and if anyone asks about marriage, we're focused on getting to know each other first." Sophia nodded. "Perfect. We've got this." Ethan reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that was becoming surprisingly familiar. "Sophia, thanks for doing this. I know it's insane. Thanks for not being a complete nightmare to fake date." "Yet," Ethan said with a grin, "the day is young." Elizabeth Harrington opened the front door before they could knock, beaming like she'd just won the lottery. "There they are, the lovebirds." She pulled them both into an enthusiastic hug. "Hi, Mrs. Harrington," Sophia said, trying not to wince at the lovebirds' comment. "Call me Elizabeth, dear. We're practically family now." Elizabeth ushered them through the house toward the back garden. "Everyone is so excited to meet you, Sophia. Ethan has told us absolutely nothing about you, which just makes it all the more romantic." Ethan shot Sophia a look that clearly said, "I told you so," about his mother's tendency toward dramatic overstatement. The backyard was a masterpiece of landscape design, with a pool that looked like it belonged in a resort and enough outdoor furniture to seat a small wedding, which Sophia realized with growing horror was probably exactly what Elizabeth was envisioning. "Sophia." Linda appeared from nowhere and enveloped her daughter in a hug that lasted approximately 30 seconds too long. "You look beautiful." "Doesn't she look beautiful, Ethan?" "She always looks beautiful," Ethan said smoothly, his arm sliding around Sophia's waist in a gesture that looked completely natural. Sophia felt her cheeks heat up, which was ridiculous because he was just playing his part. "Oh, listen to him." Linda practically glowed. Such a charmer. No wonder Sophia is so smitten. Mom, Sophia warned under her breath. Come on, you two. Let me introduce you to everyone. Elizabeth began steering them toward the crowd of people scattered around the garden. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions, small talk, and increasingly creative questions about their relationship. Sophia found herself impressed by how seamlessly Ethan played his part, his hand never leaving some point of contact with her, her back, her hand, her shoulder, in a way that looked possessive but not clingy. So, Sophia, said Rebecca Thompson, one of Elizabeth's country club friends, how did you know Ethan was the one? Sophia nearly choked on her wine. Well, it was actually pretty obvious from the beginning, Ethan said, his thumb stroking across her knuckles. Sophia has this way of challenging me that no one else does. She makes me want to be better. The group of women around them practically sighed in unison. And you, Ethan? Asked another woman. What made you fall for our Sophia? Her intelligence, Ethan said without hesitation, and her passion. When Sophia believes in something, she throws her whole heart into it. It's impossible not to be drawn to that kind of intensity. Sophia stared at him, momentarily forgetting that this was all an act. The way he was looking at her, the sincerity in his voice, it felt real. Too real. Oh, young love, Rebecca sighed. It's so beautiful to see. Speaking of which, Elizabeth appeared at Ethan's shoulder. I hope you don't mind, but I've arranged a little surprise. Sophia and Ethan exchanged alarmed looks. What kind of surprise? Ethan asked cautiously. Well, since you two seem so perfect together, I thought it would be fun to play a little game. You know, test how well you really know each other. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. A game? The newlywed game? Linda exclaimed, appearing with a stack of cards. It'll be so much fun. We're not newlyweds, Sophia said quickly. We're not even details. Elizabeth waved her hand dismissively. The point is to see how compatible you are. Everyone, gather around. Before they could object, chairs were being arranged in a circle, and the entire party was settling in to watch Sophia and Ethan's relationship get dissected in real time. Okay, Linda said, consulting her cards. I'll ask each of you a question about the other, and we'll see how well your answers match. First question. Sophia, what is Ethan's biggest fear? Sophia's mind went completely blank. She looked at Ethan, who appeared to be having his own internal panic attack. She started, then noticed Ethan's hand gripping his beer bottle with white knuckles. Something clicked. Loss of control, she said suddenly. Ethan's biggest fear is not being in control of a situation. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. Is she right? Linda asked excitedly. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, she's right. The crowd murmured approvingly. Ethan's turn, Elizabeth announced. What's Sophia's favorite way to relax after a stressful day? Ethan studied Sophia's face, and she could practically see him thinking through everything he'd learned about her over the past week. She takes a bath with a book and a glass of wine, he said finally, something with a happy ending because she says real life is complicated enough. Sophia felt her jaw drop. She'd mentioned that exactly once in passing during their strategy session. Correct. Linda clapped her hands. Oh, this is wonderful. The questions continued, each one more personal than the last. Somehow, despite having known each other for only a week, they managed to answer most of them correctly. Ethan knew that Sophia was secretly terrified of butterflies. Sophia knew that Ethan had wanted to be a teacher before his father pressured him into business. Ethan knew that Sophia's guilty pleasure was reality TV. Sophia knew that Ethan spoke 3 languages, but was embarrassed about his accent in Italian. Final question. Elizabeth announced dramatically, this one's for both of you. What's your favorite thing about each other? Sophia and Ethan looked at each other across the circle, both of them silent for a long moment. I'll go first, Ethan said quietly, his eyes never leaving Sophia's face. My favorite thing about Sophia is that she's fearless. She stands up for what she believes in, even when it's difficult, even when it means confronting someone bigger and stronger than her in the middle of Fifth Avenue. The group laughed, but Sophia barely heard them. She was too focused on the way Ethan was looking at her, like she was something precious. Sophia, Linda prompted. My favorite thing about Ethan, Sophia said slowly, is that he actually listens, really listens, not just to respond, but to understand, and he remembers everything, even the little things that most people would forget. The silence that followed was broken by Rebecca's emotional sigh. Oh my goodness, she said, you two are perfect for each other. The crowd erupted in agreement, but Sophia was barely aware of the noise around them. She was too caught up in the realization that everything she just said was true. When had that happened? "All right, everyone," Elizabeth called out, "time for dessert." I had the chef prepare something special. As the crowd dispersed toward the dessert table, Sophia and Ethan found themselves alone for the first time all day. "We survived," Ethan said, but his voice sounded strange. "Yeah," Sophia agreed. "We were pretty convincing, very convincing." They stood there for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling between them. "Sophia," Ethan started, then stopped. "About what I said, it was perfect," Sophia interrupted quickly. "Very believable. Our mothers are completely sold." "Right. Believable." Sophia's phone buzzed with a text, breaking the tension. "Unknown number. Saw the pics from the barbecue on Instagram. You and mystery man look cozy. Coffee soon to discuss." Laura Sophia showed Ethan the text. "My best friend." She saw Elizabeth's Instagram posts, the ones where we look like we're actually in love. Those would be the ones. Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Sophia, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are we still pretending?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and danger and everything Sophia had been trying not to think about. She started, then stopped. "I don't know. Because if we're not pretending anymore, that changes things." "I know. And if we are still pretending, then we need to be more careful because what happened back there felt real." Sophia finished. "Yeah, real." Before either of them could say anything else, Linda appeared at Sophia's shoulder with a plate of cake and a scheming expression. "Sophia, sweetheart, Elizabeth and I have been talking, and we think it's time to discuss engagement rings." Sophia choked on her wine. "Engagement rings? Nothing too elaborate," Elizabeth added, joining the conversation, "just something classic and elegant." "Ethan, what's your preference for diamonds?" Ethan looked like he was considering jumping into the pool, fully clothed. We haven't really discussed." "Well, of course you haven't," Linda laughed. "That's what mothers are for, to handle all the practical details while you two focus on being in love." "Actually," Sophia said desperately, "we should probably get going. I have an early meeting tomorrow." "On Sunday?" Elizabeth asked suspiciously. "With a client in Tokyo," Ethan said quickly. "Different time zones." It was a terrible lie, but their mothers were too excited about ring shopping to question it. 20 minutes later, Sophia and Ethan sat in his Porsche in her apartment building's parking garage, both of them staring straight ahead in silence. "Well," Ethan said finally, "that was terrifying. I was going to say eye-opening." Sophia turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. "I mean that somewhere between the fake dating plan and the barbecue performance, I stopped pretending." Sophia's heart stopped. "Ethan, I know this is complicated. I know we started this whole thing as a way to get our mothers off our backs. But, Sophia, what I said back there about you being fearless, about listening to you, that wasn't part of the act. We agreed this was fake," Sophia said weakly. "I know what we agreed, but I also know that I've spent more time thinking about you this week than I have about anything else in months. And I know that when Rebecca asked what made me fall for you, I didn't have to think about my answer." Sophia stared at him, her carefully constructed walls crumbling. "This is a terrible idea. Probably. Our mothers set us up. This whole situation is completely insane. Completely. And we barely know each other. We know enough." Sophia looked at Ethan, really looked at him, at the way his hair fell across his forehead when he was nervous, at the small scar above his left eyebrow that she'd never noticed before, at the way he was looking at her, like she was the answer to a question he'd been afraid to ask. "Ethan," she said softly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe we should stop pretending and see what happens when we don't have an escape plan. And if it doesn't work out, then at least we'll know we tried." Sophia felt something shift in her chest, like a lock clicking open. "This is crazy." The best things usually are. Before she could change her mind, Sophia leaned across the center console and kissed him. It was supposed to be a quick kiss, a test to see if the chemistry they'd been pretending to have was real. But the moment their lips met, Sophia knew they were in trouble. Ethan's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb stroking across her cheek, and suddenly she couldn't remember why she'd thought this was a bad idea. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "So," Ethan said, his forehead resting against hers, "are we still fake dating?" Sophia smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I have no idea what we're doing." "Good," Ethan said, kissing her again. "I like not having a plan." "Don't get used to it," Sophia murmured against his lips. "I'm still going to make spreadsheets. I wouldn't expect anything less." As Ethan walked her to her apartment door, Sophia realized that somewhere between throwing coffee at a stranger and falling for her fake boyfriend, her life had become exactly the kind of romantic comedy she'd always rolled her eyes at. And for the first time in her very organized, very planned life, she was perfectly okay with not knowing how it would end. Sophia woke up on Sunday morning with her lips still tingling from Ethan's kiss and a text message that made her stomach drop to her feet. "Mom, Elizabeth and I went ring shopping this morning. Can't wait to show you what we found. Emergency brunch at 11 to discuss wedding venues. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no." Sophia sat bolt upright in bed, her hair resembling a small tornado. This was not part of the plan. There was no plan anymore, which was exactly the problem. Her phone rang immediately. "Tell me, you got the same text I did." Ethan's voice came through, sounding like he'd been awake for hours. "Ring shopping," Sophia said faintly. "They went ring shopping without us. At 9 a.m. on a Sunday while we were having our relationship breakthrough." Sophia flopped back onto her pillows dramatically. "Ethan, what have we done? Yesterday we decided to stop pretending, and now our mothers think they're planning an actual wedding. I know. I've been lying here since 6 a.m. trying to figure out how to handle this, and I have several ideas. None of them are good." Sophia groaned. "What are our options?" "We could tell them the truth, that this whole thing started as a fake relationship, but then turned real. Except we've been dating for exactly 12 hours. So maybe it's too early to be discussing marriage." "Option 2, Ethan continued. "We could run away to a non-extradition country and start new lives as llama farmers. I like llamas." "Option 3, we could just roll with it and see what happens." "Roll with it, Ethan. They bought rings, plural. They're probably planning our children's names right now. Would that be so terrible?" The question hung in the air, and Sophia felt her heart do something acrobatic in her chest. "Ethan, I'm not saying we should get married tomorrow," he said quickly. "I'm just saying that maybe this whole crazy situation has been pushing us towards something we wouldn't have found on our own." Sophia stared at her ceiling, where she'd stuck glow-in-the-dark stars during a particularly whimsical moment 3 years ago. "You want to go to the brunch? I want to see what happens if we stop trying to control everything. That's very un-Ethan of you. You're a bad influence." Despite everything, Sophia smiled. "Fine, but I'm wearing armor. I'll pick you up at 10:30. "And Sophia?" "Yeah? Whatever happens today, we're in this together. No more fake anything. No more fake anything." Sophia agreed and realized she meant it completely. 2 hours later, Sophia stood in front of her mirror wearing a navy blue dress that struck the perfect balance between "I'm happy to be here" and "please don't make me try on engagement rings." Her phone had been buzzing non-stop with increasingly excited messages from both mothers, including photos of ring boxes that made her hyperventilate a little. "Mom, look at this gorgeous solitaire. Elizabeth thinks the emerald cut would suit your hand better, but I think round is more classic. Ethan, my mother just sent me 12 photos of the same ring from different angles. I think she's lost her mind." Sophia, "Only 12? I'm up to 27, including close-ups of the perfect clarity and excellent fire." Ethan, "Should I be concerned that I know what those terms mean now?" Sophia, "We've been dating for 1 day, and you're already learning about diamonds. This is moving fast even for our mothers." Ethan, "Speaking of moving fast, I should probably tell you something before we get to brunch." Sophia's fingers froze over her phone keyboard. That sounded ominous. Sophia, "What?" Ethan, "I may have accidentally told my mother that I was falling in love with you." Sophia dropped her phone. "Ethan? Sophia, you still there?" She picked up the phone with shaking hands. "Sophia, you what?" "Ethan, she called me at 7 a.m. asking about ring sizes and preferences, and I panicked. She asked if I was serious about you, and I said I'd never been more serious about anything in my life." Sophia, "And then, Ethan, and then she may have started crying tears of joy and called your mother to share the wonderful news." Sophia sat down heavily on her bed. "That's why they went ring shopping." Ethan, "I'm really sorry. I know we said we'd figure this out together, but she caught me off guard, and it just came out." Sophia stared at the text, processing the implications. Ethan had told his mother he was falling in love with her, which meant either he was panicking and said the first thing that came to mind, or Sophia, "Were you lying?" The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before Ethan's response came through. Ethan, "No." Sophia's heart stopped, restarted, then did a little tap dance routine. "Sophia, Oh, Ethan. Oh, Sophia. I mean, good, because I may have accidentally told my best friend Laura that I was falling for my fake boyfriend Ethan. When? Sophia. 3 days ago, before I admitted it to myself. Ethan. So we're both disasters. Sophia, the worst kind of disasters. Ethan, perfect for each other. Sophia found herself smiling at her phone like a teenager. Sophia, come pick me up. Let's go see what kind of rings our mothers picked out for our accidental engagement. Ethan. Our accidental engagement? Sophia. You got a better term for this situation? Ethan. How about our inevitable engagement? Sophia felt something warm and fluttery settle in her chest. Inevitable, she murmured to herself, testing out the word. It felt right. Sophia. I like that better. The brunch was at the plaza, because of course it was. Elizabeth and Linda had commandeered a private dining room and invited what appeared to be half of New York's social elite to witness what they were calling the most romantic love story of the decade. Sophia and Ethan stood outside the restaurant, holding hands and trying to psych themselves up for what was about to be either the best or worst day of their lives. Ready? Ethan asked, squeezing her fingers. Absolutely not. Let's do this. They walked into the dining room to find 30 people standing around tables covered with ring boxes, flower arrangements, and what appeared to be a 3-tiered wedding cake. Surprise! The entire room shouted in unison. Sophia and Ethan froze. What? Ethan said slowly. Is happening? Elizabeth rushed over to them, practically glowing with excitement. We're throwing you an engagement party. Isn't it wonderful? An engagement party, Sophia repeated faintly. For our engagement, Ethan added, the engagement that hasn't happened yet. Sophia clarified. Oh, silly. Linda appeared at Sophia's other side, beaming. Of course it's happened. Ethan told Elizabeth, he's in love with you. You've been inseparable all week, and we found the perfect ring. All that's left is the actual proposal. The room fell silent, and Sophia realized that 30 people were staring at them expectantly. The proposal? Ethan said. Right now? Sophia asked. Well, of course. Right now. Elizabeth clapped her hands. We have witnesses. We have the ring. We have the cake. It's perfect. Sophia looked at Ethan, who appeared to be experiencing some kind of out-of-body experience. Ethan, she said quietly. You okay? Ethan blinked, then looked around the room at all the expectant faces. His gaze landed on Sophia, and something in his expression shifted. Actually, he said, his voice getting stronger, I am more than okay. Before Sophia could ask what that meant, Ethan was dropping to one knee in front of her. The room erupted in gasps and excited murmurs. Sophia Rose Carter, Ethan said, looking up at her with an expression that was half terror and half determination. This is not how I planned to do this. Ethan, what are you doing? Sophia whispered. I'm improvising, he said with a shaky smile. A week ago, if someone had told me I'd be proposing to a woman I'd known for 7 days, I would have had them committed. But then, a week ago, I'd never met you. Sophia felt tears starting to gather in her eyes. You threw coffee on me, Ethan continued, and called me an entitled rich boy and made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. You're brilliant and passionate and completely fearless. And you make me want to be the kind of man who deserves you. Ethan, Sophia's voice came out as barely a whisper. I know this is insane. I know we're supposed to take things slow and get to know each other properly. But, Sophia, I already know everything I need to know. I know that you organize your spice rack alphabetically and that you cry during commercials about rescue dogs. I know that you sing in the shower and that you have 17 different coffee mugs. But you always use the same one. I know that you're afraid of butterflies, but you'll stand up to anyone who tries to intimidate you. The room was completely silent now, everyone hanging on Ethan's every word. Most importantly, Ethan said, reaching into his jacket pocket, I know that I don't want to spend another day without you in my life. So, Sophia Carter, will you marry me? He held up a ring box, revealing a stunning solitaire diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the room. Sophia stared at the ring, then at Ethan's face, then at the room full of people waiting for her answer. This was crazy. This was the most insane thing that had ever happened to her. They'd known each other for a week. They'd started fake dating 3 days ago. They'd had their first real kiss less than 24 hours ago. And yet, yes, she heard herself say. Ethan's face lit up like sunrise. Yes? Yes, you ridiculous. I'm possible, man. Yes. I'll marry you." The room exploded into cheers and applause as Ethan slipped the ring onto Sophia's finger. It fit perfectly, because of course it did. Their mothers had thought of everything. Ethan stood and kissed her, and this time, Sophia didn't care that 30 people were watching. This time she kissed him back like her life depended on it. "I love you," Ethan murmured against her lips. "I love you too," Sophia whispered back and realized she'd never meant anything more in her life. "So," Ethan said, pulling back slightly, "want to get married?" Sophia laughed, a sound of pure joy that made everyone in the room smile. "When?" "How about next month?" "I hear June weddings are nice." "Next month." Sophia looked around at their mothers, who were practically vibrating with excitement. "That's pretty fast." "Too fast?" Sophia considered this. A month ago, she'd been a single woman with no prospects and a mother who despaired of ever having grandchildren. Now she was engaged to a man she'd fallen in love with while fake dating him to get out of an arranged marriage. "You know what?" she said. "I think it's perfect. June it is." "Then, June," Sophia agreed, then started laughing again. "This is insane." "Completely insane," Ethan agreed. "Do you mind?" Sophia looked at her fiancé, and realized that everything she'd thought she wanted had been completely wrong. She thought she wanted control, stability, a carefully planned life. What she actually wanted was standing right in front of her, looking at her like she was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. "I don't mind at all," she said. The rest of the party passed in a blur of congratulations, champagne toasts, and increasingly detailed wedding planning discussions. Sophia found herself swept along in a current of enthusiasm that was both terrifying and exhilarating. "So," Laura said, appearing at Sophia's elbow with a knowing smirk, "this is the mysterious boyfriend you've been hiding from me, Laura." Sophia hugged her best friend. "When did you get here?" "Your mother called me this morning and told me to get down here immediately because you were getting engaged." I thought she'd finally lost her mind, but Laura gestured to the ring on Sophia's finger. "Apparently not. It's complicated," Sophia said. "Honey, love is always complicated. The question is, are you happy?" Sophia looked across the room to where Ethan was being interrogated by her uncle about his business prospects and his intentions regarding her future. He caught her eye and winked, and her heart did that fluttery thing again. "Yeah," she said, "I'm happy." "Good, because if he hurts you, I have a very specific set of skills and a shovel." Noted. As the afternoon wore on, Sophia found herself in increasingly surreal conversations about wedding venues, flower arrangements, and guest lists. At some point, she realized that she and Ethan had been so caught up in their whirlwind romance that they'd never actually discussed any practical details about their future. "Ethan," she said, pulling him aside during a lull in the festivities, "we should probably talk about the fact that we just got engaged and we don't know anything about each other's life plans." Ethan considered this. "Good point. Do you want kids?" "Yes." "Do you?" "Definitely." "How many?" "2 or 3. "Same." "Where do you want to live?" "The city, but maybe with a weekend place upstate." "You?" "I was thinking the exact same thing." Sophia stared at him. "This is weird, right? How compatible we are." "Maybe," Ethan said, pulling her closer, "or maybe our mothers are just really good at this whole matchmaking thing." "Don't let them hear you say that. They'll take it as validation." "Too late," Linda said, appearing beside them with a glass of champagne and a victorious expression. "I absolutely heard that, and I am absolutely taking it as validation." "Mom, no, don't you mum me, young lady. I matched you with the perfect man, and you're both going to live happily ever after. And I'm going to be the most smug mother of the bride in the history of weddings." Elizabeth appeared on Ethan's other side. "We're already planning the rehearsal dinner." "I hope you like lobster, Sophia." "I love lobster," Sophia said automatically. "Perfect. See, it's like you were made for each other." Ethan and Sophia exchanged amused looks over their mothers' heads. "We should probably start planning our escape," Ethan murmured. "Where to?" "Somewhere private where we can actually talk about what just happened." "Your place, my place." 20 minutes and a series of increasingly elaborate excuses later, Sophia and Ethan finally escaped the engagement party and found themselves in Ethan's Porsche, driving toward his apartment in comfortable silence. "So," Sophia said finally, "we're engaged." "We are? To each other. That's generally how engagement works." "Yes." Sophia twisted the ring on her finger, still not quite believing it was there. "Ethan, are we completely crazy?" "Probably." Ethan reached over and took her hand. "Does that bother you?" Sophia thought about it. "You know what? No, it doesn't. I've spent my whole life making careful, rational decisions, and where has that gotten me? Single at 28 with a mother who was ready to auction me off to the highest bidder. And I've spent my whole life trying to control every variable, plan for every contingency. But the best thing that's ever happened to me came from a complete accident. Getting coffee thrown on you? Meeting you. Sophia felt her heart melt a little. That was very smooth. I have my moments. They pulled into the garage of Ethan's building, which was exactly the kind of place Sophia had imagined he'd live. All glass and steel and expensive minimalism. Fair warning, Ethan said as they got into the elevator. My apartment is probably not what you're expecting. Why? You'll see. Ethan's apartment was, in fact, not what Sophia was expecting. Instead of the cold, modern space she'd anticipated, it was warm and lived in, with books everywhere, comfortable furniture, and artwork that looked like it had been chosen for love rather than investment value. This is beautiful, Sophia said, running her fingers along the spines of books on his coffee table. I know it's not very sophisticated, Ethan. Sophia turned to face him. This is perfect. This is you. Is that good or bad? Instead of answering, Sophia kissed him, not the desperate kiss from the night before or the performative kiss from the engagement party, but something softer and deeper and full of promise. Definitely good, she murmured against his lips. They spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking about everything they'd been too caught up in the chaos to discuss. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, their completely ridiculous situation. Can I ask you something? Sophia said, curled up against Ethan's side on his impossibly comfortable couch. Anything. When did you know that this was real? Ethan was quiet for a moment, his fingers playing with her hair. The barbecue. When they asked what my favorite thing about you was, and I didn't have to think about the answer, that's when I realized I wasn't acting anymore. For me, it was the coffee shop. Sophia said, when you remembered my order and brought me pastries, nobody had ever paid attention to details like that before. So, we've been lying to ourselves for days, apparently. And to everyone else. Definitely. Ethan tilted her chin up so he could see her face. Sophia, are you sure about this? About us? Because once we get married, our mothers are going to take credit for it for the rest of our lives. Sophia considered this soberly. That's a pretty serious consequence. The most serious. I think I can live with it, she said. Can you? I think I can manage. Good, Sophia said, settling back against his chest. Because I have a feeling this is going to be the adventure of a lifetime. Just promise me one thing, Ethan said. What? No more throwing coffee on people you're fighting with? Sophia laughed. I promise. But only if you promise to never again try to intimidate women with your fancy car. Deal. Deal. 6 weeks later, Sophia stood in front of a full-length mirror in the bridal suite of the Plaza Hotel, wearing a dress that made her look like a princess from a fairy tale she'd never believed in. You look perfect, Laura said, adjusting Sophia's veil. Absolutely perfect. I look terrified. Sophia corrected. That too. But in a good way. Is there a good way to look terrified? When you're about to marry the love of your life? Absolutely. Sophia stared at her reflection. In 6 weeks, her entire life had changed. She'd gotten engaged, planned a wedding, moved half her stuff into Ethan's apartment, and somehow managed to fall even more in love with her fiancé. Laura, she said quietly, what if I'm making a huge mistake? Laura turned Sophia to face her, hands on her shoulders. Sophia Rose Carter, you are the smartest, most capable woman I know. You've never made a huge mistake in your life. Why would you start now? Because this is insane. Because normal people don't get married after knowing each other for 2 months. Because you're scared, Laura interrupted. And you know what? That's okay. Everyone's scared on their wedding day. But the question isn't whether you're scared. The question is, do you love him? Yes, Sophia said without hesitation. Do you trust him? Yes. Do you want to spend the rest of your life with him? Sophia thought about Ethan, probably pacing around his hotel room in his tuxedo, driving his groomsmen crazy with his pre-wedding nerves. She thought about the way he brought her coffee in bed every morning and how he'd started learning to cook her favorite foods. She thought about the way he listened to her terrible day at work and offered solutions without trying to fix everything for her. She thought about how he made her laugh and how he held her when she cried and how he looked at her like she was the most amazing thing in the world. Yes, she said, I really do. Then stop overthinking and go marry that man. A knock on the door interrupted them. Sophia, Linda's voice came through. Honey, it's time. Sophia took a deep breath, picked up her bouquet, and opened the door. Her mother stood there in a dress that cost more than Sophia's first car, crying tears of joy. "Oh, sweetheart," Linda said, "you look absolutely beautiful." "Thanks, Mom." Sophia hesitated, then added, "And thank you for the matchmaking and the meddling and the complete invasion of my personal life. I know I fought you on it, but you were right about Ethan. About us. About everything." Linda's tears intensified. "Don't make me cry more, dear. My makeup won't survive it." The walk down the aisle was a blur of faces and flowers and music that swelled around Sophia like something from a movie, but all she could see was Ethan standing at the altar in his tuxedo, looking at her like she was walking toward him through a dream. When she reached him, he leaned down and whispered, "You look incredible. You clean up pretty well yourself," she whispered back. The ceremony was perfect in every way that mattered, traditional enough to satisfy their mothers, personal enough to feel true to them. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, there was a moment of silence broken only by Elizabeth loudly saying, "Don't even think about it." The vows they'd written brought tears to half the congregation. Ethan promised to always listen to Sophia's ideas, even the ones that terrified him. Sophia promised to let Ethan take care of her sometimes, even though she was perfectly capable of taking care of herself. And when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the kiss that followed felt like coming home. "So, Mrs. Harrington," Ethan said as they walked back down the aisle together, "how does it feel to be married?" "Ask me again in 50 years, Sophia said. But she was smiling. "I will." The reception was everything their mothers had dreamed of. Elegant, sophisticated, and filled with people who kept commenting on what a perfect couple they made. Sophia and Ethan spent the evening in a happy haze, dancing and laughing and accepting congratulations from people who had no idea their love story had started with assault by caffeinated beverage. "Do you think they'll ever figure out how we really met?" Sophia asked during their first dance. "I hope not," Ethan said. "I like our version better. Our version, the one where we're both smart enough to recognize a good thing when it hits us in the face. Literally, in your case, best thing that ever happened to me, even though I ruined your shirt? Especially because you ruined my shirt." As the evening wound down and the last of the guests began to leave, Sophia found herself standing on the terrace of the Plaza Ballroom, looking out over Central Park and trying to process everything that had happened. "Regrets?" Ethan asked, joining her at the railing. "Only one," Sophia said. Ethan's face fell. "What?" "I regret waiting so long to throw coffee on you." Ethan laughed, the sound echoing across the terrace. "Well, Mrs. Harrington, I think we can safely say our story is just beginning." "Mr. Harrington," Sophia said, taking his hand and admiring the way her wedding ring caught the light, "I wouldn't have it any other way." And as they stood there together, looking out over the city where they'd met and fought and fallen in love, Sophia realized that sometimes the best plans were the ones you never made at all. Sometimes the best love stories started with the worst first impressions. And sometimes, just sometimes, mothers really did know best. Even if she'd never admit it out loud. "Come on," Ethan said, pulling her toward the door. "Let's go start our happily ever after." "Lead the way," Sophia said, and meant it completely. After all, she'd thrown her life plan out the window for this man. What was one more leap of faith? The end.